I hadn't even stopped moving when the door slid open. In that instant, the blue luminescence on her skin vanished, revealing a truth. This wasn't merely a misunderstanding. It was an invitation to mate. In the glittering light of the starship corridor, I understood that the smallest mistake could open an entire door to destiny. The crystallite lights pulsed rhythmically along the endless corridor of the Eris Nova. Their glow reflected off the polished surfaces, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls as I made my way through the ship. Space dust and plasma waves created a hypnotic display outside the viewports, visible through occasional gaps in the passageway. I was here on a straightforward mission: fix the faulty sensors and repair the interplanetary translation system. As Earth's representative engineer, I'd been briefed on the diplomatic significance of this vessel. The Eris Nova served as the negotiation center for the upcoming talks between humans and the Volari Alliance. What they hadn't adequately prepared me for was the labyrinthine complexity of Volari culture. My name is Justin Hale, Systems Engineer, Earth Division. The schematic displayed on my tablet was outdated, and I'd been wandering these corridors for what felt like hours. The ship's layout seemed deliberately confusing, with identical intersections and unmarked doorways. I needed to find the technical storage bay, but the signs, if there were any, were incomprehensible to me. I stopped at what appeared to be a maintenance entry. The door was unmarked save for elegant swirling patterns that might have been decorative or functional, impossible to tell with Volari design philosophy. I hesitated, then pressed what I assumed was the entry chime. The door slid open immediately, and I stepped forward before registering that this was definitely not the storage bay. Instead, I found myself in what was clearly private quarters. The room was bathed in soft, ambient light that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. The walls were adorned with what looked like stellar maps and intricate metalwork that caught and scattered the light. And there, in the center of the room, stood a Volari woman in the process of changing her garments. Time seemed to stop. The blue luminescence on her skin, distinctive markings of the Volari, flickered momentarily as her eyes met mine. Her expression wasn't one of outrage or shock, but rather curiosity. I froze, my brain frantically searching for the appropriate response. Should I apologize? Back away? Close my eyes? Every diplomatic protocol I'd been taught suddenly evaporated from my mind. I'm so sorry, I stammered, but I remained rooted to the spot, unable to move. The Volari woman tilted her head slightly, her luminescent markings pulsing in what I later learned was a pattern of interest. "You have entered, you have seen, and you have not departed," she said, her voice melodic yet authoritative. "You clearly are not of my kind, yet I note you do not flee." My heart pounded against my ribs. Something in her tone suggested I'd crossed a boundary far more significant than mere privacy. "This was an accident," I explained hastily. "I'm looking for the technical storage bay. I'm the systems engineer sent to repair the translation core." She regarded me with golden eyes that seemed to look through rather than at me. Accident or destiny, the outcome remains the same. The seeing has occurred. She moved with fluid grace, reaching for a robe that shimmered like liquid starlight. "You are human, yet you stand before me after the unveiling. Do you understand what this means?" I shook my head, suddenly aware that I was entangled in something far beyond a simple misunderstanding. "Then complete what you have begun," she said enigmatically, and my stomach dropped as if the artificial gravity had suddenly failed. I backed toward the door, my mind racing. "I should go, again. I apologize for the intrusion." Her expression changed subtly. "You may leave, but know that what has been initiated cannot be undone through mere departure." I fled, the door sliding shut behind me with a finality that felt ominous. It wasn't until later that I understood the cultural catastrophe I had inadvertently set in motion. 3 hours later, I was summoned to the office of Commander Myron, my technical supervisor aboard the Eris Nova. His human features were set in an expression I couldn't quite read, somewhere between exasperation and alarm. "Hale, do you have any idea what you've done?" he asked without preamble. I shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, if this is about the accidental intrusion, I can explain." "This is far beyond an accidental intrusion," Myron interrupted, his voice tightly controlled. "The woman whose quarters you entered is Lady Amara Valari, heir to the Valari royal house." My blood ran cold. "I had no idea, sir. The schematics were outdated, and the markings on the door were royal insignia, which you would have recognized had you completed the cultural briefing modules." Myron finished for me. He sighed heavily. "But that's not even the worst of it. According to Valari custom, witnessing a royal member in a state of undress during their pre-mating ritual is considered a formal invitation to pair bonding." I stared at him, certain I had misheard. "I'm sorry. What?" "Your failure to immediately depart upon seeing her was interpreted as acceptance of this invitation." Myron continued, each word dropping like a stone. "Lady Amara has formally acknowledged you as a potential protector consort candidate, a position typically reserved for politically significant individuals." The room seemed to spin around me. "But that's absurd. It was a mistake. Can't I just explain that and apologize?" Myron's expression darkened. "Rejecting such an invitation must be done publicly and causes significant dishonor to both parties. If you refuse now, you'll not only humiliate Lady Amara before her people, but potentially destabilize the entire diplomatic mission we've spent years establishing." I collapsed into a chair, my legs suddenly unable to support me. "What am I supposed to do?" "You need to meet with Lady Amara and understand exactly what's at stake," Myron said. "This isn't just about you anymore. Hale, this involves interstellar relations at the highest level." "But I'm just an engineer," I protested weakly. Myron's gaze was unsympathetic. "Not anymore. Now you're a diplomatic incident waiting to happen." He checked his communications device. "Lady Amara has agreed to receive you in 1 hour. Don't waste time feeling sorry for yourself. Go prepare. And for God's sake, don't make another cultural misstep." I left Myron's office with my head spinning. How had a simple repair assignment turned into this nightmare? I was a technician, not a diplomat, and certainly not royal consort material for an alien princess. An hour later, I found myself once again outside Lady Amara's quarters, this time with a proper escort who departed as soon as I arrived. I pressed the entry chime with trembling fingers. The door slid open to reveal the same room, now dimly lit with what looked like floating orbs of blue-white light. Lady Amara stood in the center, fully dressed in formal attire that accentuated her regal bearing. Her skin's natural luminescence created patterns that shifted subtly beneath the surface, a trait unique to the Valari people. "Enter, Justin Hale of Earth," she said, her voice carrying the same musical quality I remembered. I stepped inside, the door closing behind me. The air was perfumed with an earthy, incense-like scent that somehow reminded me of desert rain. "Lady Amara," I began, struggling to find the right words. "I need to apologize for my intrusion earlier. In human culture, what happened would be considered a simple mistake without deeper implications." She regarded me thoughtfully. "I am aware of the differences between our peoples. Yet now, we find ourselves entangled in a situation governed by Valari tradition." She gestured to a seating area. "Please, be comfortable. We have much to discuss." I sat on what appeared to be a cushion, molded from some living material that adjusted to my form. Lady Amara sat across from me, her posture perfect. "You have 2 options before you," she stated matter-of-factly. "You may accept the invitation to the pair bond trial, or you may publicly refuse it. The latter would cause significant dishonor to both of us and potentially harm relations between our peoples." "I just want to understand your culture," I said desperately. "This is all happening too quickly." Something changed in her expression. The faintest hint of a smile touched her lips. "Then perhaps there is a third path. You could undertake the dissonance trial, a 3-day period during which your worthiness would be tested according to Volari custom. If you fail, the pair bond invitation is nullified without the public disgrace of refusal." I grasped at this lifeline. What would this trial involve? 3 challenges that test your character, intelligence, and loyalty, she explained. The specifics are determined by tradition and circumstance. It would allow you time to understand our ways, while I assess whether you are truly worthy of consideration. "And if I pass these tests?" I asked cautiously. "Then, you would be recognized as a legitimate protector consort candidate, and further decisions could be made without the pressure of immediate crisis." It wasn't ideal, but it seemed better than the alternatives. "I accept the dissonance trial," I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. Lady Amara nodded, satisfaction evident in the brightening of her luminescent patterns. "Then it begins now. The first challenge awaits us tomorrow in the council chamber. Be prepared. Just inhale. The noble houses will not make this easy for you." As I left her quarters, I was overwhelmed by a sense of having leapt from the frying pan directly into a stellar furnace. I wasn't just fixing a translation core anymore. I was fighting for my dignity, and potentially the diplomatic relations between 2 species. And I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. The following morning, I was escorted to the council chamber by a stern-faced Volari guard named Velra. Her luminescent patterns were sharp and geometric, suggesting military precision. "Lady Amara awaits inside," she informed me, her tone neutral, but her eyes skeptical. "Remember, human, many watch to see you fail." "Thanks for the vote of confidence," I muttered, straightening my uniform jacket. The doors slid open to reveal a vast, circular room. The ceiling arched high above, displaying a real-time view of the space outside the ship. Around a crescent-shaped table sat a dozen Volari nobles, their skin patterns glowing with various intensities and rhythms. At the center of the crescent sat Lady Amara, resplendent in formal attire that emphasized her royal status. She beckoned me forward with a subtle gesture, indicating a position at her side. I approached, acutely aware of the critical eyes following my every move. "The Council recognizes Justin Hale of Earth," Lady Amara announced formally. "He stands before us as a candidate in the dissonance trial." A murmur rippled through the assembled nobles. One of them, an older male with elaborate patterns covering his face, leaned forward. "You, a human, presume to stand beside a Volari royal?" he challenged, his voice laden with disdain. "What qualities could you possibly possess that would make you worthy?" Before I could respond, another noble spoke up. "Your people barely understand the principles of subspace navigation, yet you would claim a position that has traditionally been filled by our greatest warriors and diplomats?" The accusations continued, each more cutting than the last. I stood silently, unsure if I was expected to defend myself or endure their scorn. Lady Amara finally raised a hand, silencing the council. "Justin Hale stands here by right of invitation, regardless of its unconventional origin. The dissonance trial will determine his worthiness, not your prejudice." Her defense surprised me, though her expression remained impassive. She turned to me. "The candidate may address the council if he wishes." Put on the spot, I took a deep breath. "I don't claim to understand all your traditions or to be worthy by your standards," I began, choosing my words carefully. "But I respect your culture enough to participate in this trial, rather than causing dishonor through refusal. I ask only for fair judgment based on my actions, not my species." A tense silence followed my words. Then, unexpectedly, one of the younger nobles nodded. Well spoken, for an outsider. Lady Amara's luminescence pulsed briefly in what I hoped was approval. The council is adjourned. The candidate has spoken his piece. As the nobles filed out, some casting curious glances my way, Lady Amara turned to me. You survived your first encounter with the noble houses. Not many outsiders can claim as much. Was that the first challenge? I asked. Merely a prelude, she replied. The real test begins now. Follow me to the observation deck. The observation deck was a breathtaking space at the top of the ship. 360 degrees of transparent material provided an unobstructed view of the cosmos. Distant stars glittered against the velvet darkness, and a nebula painted purples and blues across one section of the vista. Lady Amara stood before the largest viewing panel, her silhouette framed by the celestial display. "This is the sky of my ancestors," she said quietly. "To bond with me, you must understand my sky." She began to point out specific constellations, explaining their significance in Volari culture. The Spear of Colthian, a formation of 7 stars that guided ancient Volari navigators. The Luminous Chain, a string of blue giants that figured prominently in their creation myths. The Twin Guardians, binary stars that protected their home system. I listened attentively, trying to absorb the wealth of cultural information. When she finished, she turned to me expectantly. "Now, show me your sky. Just inhale." I stepped forward, scanning the visible stars until I located a faint, reddish point. "There," I said, pointing. "That's Sol, our sun. From this distance, you can't see Earth, but it's there. Our blue marble surrounded by darkness." I described Earth's night sky as seen from the red deserts where I grew up. The summer triangle forming a massive asterism overhead. The Milky Way stretching across the zenith on clear nights. The red glow of Mars wandering through the zodiac. Our ancient sailors used the North Star to navigate, much like your ancestors used the spear. I explained. Different methods, same purpose, finding our way home through the darkness. As I spoke, I noticed Lady Amara watching me with increasing interest, her luminescent patterns softening into waves rather than the sharp angles I'd become accustomed to seeing. "You speak of your sky with passion," she observed when I finished. "Perhaps our peoples are not so different in our wonder at the cosmos." Something shifted between us in that moment, a small bridge of understanding forming across the vast cultural divide. "Come," she said, breaking the spell. "There is one more element to today's challenge." She led me to her private dining area, where an elaborate meal had been prepared. Various dishes containing foods I didn't recognize were arranged in a specific pattern. "The sharing of sustenance is sacred among my people," Lady Amara explained. "This is not merely eating, it is communion." She showed me the proper utensils, elongated implements that functioned as extensions of one's fingers, rather than as separate tools. The ritual was complex. Certain foods could only be consumed in specific sequences, and touching items with bare hands was strictly forbidden until a ceremonial cup had been offered. I struggled to remember each rule, fumbling with the unfamiliar utensils. At one point, I reached for a bright red fruit before the proper ceremonial exchange, a significant breach of protocol. Lady Amara gently intercepted my hand. "Not yet," she said, but there was no anger in her voice. "First, we honor the intention." She demonstrated the correct sequence, then added, "I value sincerity over perfection. Your effort to learn is noted." By the end of the meal, I had committed at least a dozen minor infractions, but managed to complete the ritual without any catastrophic failures. To my surprise, I found myself enjoying both the unusual flavors and Lady Amara's increasingly relaxed demeanor. As attendants cleared away the remains of our meal, Lady Amara regarded me thoughtfully. "You have completed the first day of your trial. Just inhale. You faced the council's scorn with dignity, learned of my sky with genuine interest, and approached our dining rituals with respect despite your mistakes." "Have I passed?" I asked. "The dissonance trial is cumulative," she explained. "Tomorrow brings new challenges. Rest well. for you will need your strength and wit. As I returned to my quarters that night, I realized something unexpected. I was beginning to genuinely admire Lady Amara. Behind her formal exterior and adherence to tradition, I glimpsed intelligence, compassion, and a subtle sense of humor. Most surprisingly, I found myself actually wanting to impress her, beyond just avoiding diplomatic catastrophe. I spent hours reviewing what little information was available about Valari customs, determined not to make a fool of myself on the second day of the trial. When sleep finally came, my dreams were filled with luminescent patterns and golden eyes. The next morning began earlier than expected, with an urgent summons to Lady Amara's presence. When I arrived, I found her examining a data tablet with a troubled expression. "A disturbing development," she said without preamble, handing me the tablet. "This encrypted communication was intercepted by our security systems. I believe it concerns an assassination plot against me." I studied the data, my engineering training kicking in as I analyzed the encryption patterns. "This is sophisticated work," I commented, already tracing the communication pathways. "The signature suggests it originated from within your noble houses. Specifically, this section here indicates House Dreneth." Lady Amara's luminescence flickered briefly, a sign of concern. I was learning to interpret. "House Dreneth has opposed my family for generations. If you stand with me tonight, I will not allow you to face their politics undefended." "I'll stand with you," I said without hesitation, surprising myself with the immediacy of my response. She studied me for a moment, then nodded. "We must present this evidence to the Council immediately. The security of the Alliance may depend on it." The emergency council session was held in a smaller chamber, with enhanced security protocols. Lady Amara stood before the assembled nobles, her voice ringing clear. "An assassination plot against me has been uncovered. I demand the right of evidence presentation." Murmurs of shock and disbelief rippled through the chamber. Lady Amara gestured for me to step forward. "Justin Hale will present the technical analysis of the intercepted communications," she announced. All eyes turned to me as I took my position. Drawing on years of technical training, I methodically explained how the encrypted message had been traced to House Dreneth's secure channels. I displayed the encryption signatures, data pathways, and timestamp verifications that prove the message's authenticity. "The order specifically calls for Lady Amara's elimination before the all-house convocation," I concluded. "The technical evidence is irrefutable." A heavy silence fell over the council. Then, the head of House Dreneth, Zorel, rose to his feet, his luminescent patterns flaring with anger. "These accusations are baseless," he protested. "This human knows nothing of our communication systems. He could easily have fabricated this evidence." Another council member intervened. "The technical analysis appears sound. We must investigate these claims thoroughly." After heated debate, the council agreed to examine the evidence in detail. Security officers were dispatched to search House Dreneth's quarters and communication systems. Hours later, the verdict came. The assassination order was genuine. Zorel Dreneth was found guilty of treason and sentenced to exile according to Valari tradition. Lady Amara's position was secured, and I was officially recognized as having passed the second phase of the dissonance trial. As we left the council chamber, Lady Amara turned to me. "You have earned the temporary title of Protector Consort today. Your technical skills have quite literally saved my life." Before I could respond, the ship's alert system blared to life. "Attention all personnel! Unknown vessels approaching. Stealth signatures detected. Battle stations." Lady Amara and I exchanged alarmed glances. "The assassination attempt may not be over," she said grimly. "Dreneth would have contingency plans." We raced to the command deck, where tactical displays showed 3 cloaked ships converging on the Eris Nova's position. "They're using phase-shift cloaking technology," I observed, studying the energy readings. "Advanced, but not perfect. There's a quantum fluctuation pattern we can track." Lady Amara turned to her security chief. Prepare a boarding pod. We will lead a direct intervention on the primary vessel. That's incredibly dangerous, I protested. Her golden eyes met mine with steely determination. A royal Valari does not hide while others fight her battles. Will you stand with me, protector consort? Despite every instinct for self-preservation screaming against it, I nodded. I'll stand with you. Within minutes, we were aboard a small, heavily armed boarding vessel. Lady Amara, now clad in combat armor that accentuated, rather than concealed her luminescent patterns, took the pilot's position. I was equipped with a pulse disruptor and shield generator. Our objective is the data core, she explained, as we detached from the Eris Nova. We need to confirm who ordered this attack and whether other conspirators remain hidden. The boarding pod accelerated toward the nearest cloaked ship, using the tracking data I had identified to lock onto its position. Lady Amara's piloting skills were impressive. She maneuvered through the invisible shields and found a docking point on the ship's lateral hull. Breach in 3, she announced, activating the cutting mechanisms. 2, 1. We burst into the enemy ship, immediately encountering resistance. Guards in unmarked armor fired energy weapons at our position. Lady Amara moved with astonishing speed and precision, neutralizing 2 attackers before I could even raise my weapon. I focused on disrupting the ship's internal systems, using my technical knowledge to bypass security protocols and cause distractions. Together, we fought our way to the central data core. Cover me, Lady Amara ordered, as she began extracting information from the ship's systems. I positioned myself at the entrance, pulse disruptor ready. When a squad of guards attempted to breach our position, I activated a modified shield configuration that reflected their energy blasts back toward them, buying us precious time. Download complete, Lady Amara announced. We have what we need, setting self-destruct protocols. As we retreated to our boarding pod, the enemy ship's systems began to fail. Lights flickered, and alarm klaxons blared. We sealed the hatch just as an explosion rocked the vessel. Eris Nova, target the primary enemy ship, Lady Amara commanded through the communication system. We're clear. From our vantage point, we watched as the Eris Nova's weapon systems locked onto the now visible enemy ship and fired. The vessel erupted in a cascade of explosions, debris scattering across the void. Our victory was short-lived. As we maneuvered back toward the Eris Nova, our pod was struck by fire from one of the remaining cloaked ships. The impact sent us spinning toward a nearby asteroid field. Stabilizers failing, I reported, frantically working to reroute power. Life support at 60% and dropping. Lady Amara fought with the controls, trying to correct our trajectory. We need emergency thrust to avoid collision. Drawing on everything I knew about ship systems, I bypassed the safety protocols and channeled emergency power to the thrust vectors. The pod shuddered violently, but slowly began to respond. Hang on, Lady Amara called, as she executed a desperate maneuver between 2 massive asteroids. We scraped past the rocks with meters to spare, but our pod was severely damaged. As we drifted, seemingly helpless, the Eris Nova appeared above us, firing precision shots that destroyed the second enemy ship. Eris Nova to boarding pod. A voice crackled through our damaged communication system. Tractor beam engaged. Hold position. The gentle pull of the tractor beam drew us back to safety. As we docked, medical personnel rushed to attend to our injuries, minor cuts and bruises. Fortunately, nothing serious. Commander Myron met us in the hangar bay, his expression a mixture of relief and exasperation. You two are either the luckiest or the most foolhardy individuals I've ever encountered. What were you thinking, engaging in direct combat? Lady Amara straightened, her dignity intact despite the ordeal. We were thinking of justice, Commander, and we have succeeded. She held up the data core we had retrieved. This will reveal the full extent of the conspiracy. Later, after being cleared by medical, Lady Amara and I reviewed the recovered data in her secure quarters. "This confirms our suspicions," she said grimly. "The attack was coordinated by remnants of House Dreneth, but they weren't acting alone. The data shows communications with two other houses, who were supposed to remain hidden until the all-house convocation. I studied the technical specifications of the cloaked ships. There are still two more vessels out there. According to these logs, they're positioned to ambush you during the convocation ceremony." Lady Amara's expression hardened. "Then we must prepare a counterstrike. They believe me vulnerable. We will use that misconception against them." "A decoy operation," I suggested, already formulating a plan. "We could arrange for a diplomatic transport to depart, making it appear that you're attempting to flee. When they move to intercept, the Eris Nova can be waiting in predetermined coordinates." "An excellent strategy," she agreed, her luminescent patterns brightening with approval. "We will draw them out and eliminate the threat once and for all." As we worked late into the night, planning the operation in detail, I became acutely aware of a shift in our relationship. Gone was the formal distance that had characterized our early interactions. In its place was a growing rapport, a sense of mutual respect and, most surprisingly, genuine connection. When we finally paused, exhausted but satisfied with our preparations, Lady Amara dismissed her attendants, leaving us alone in the soft glow of plasma lamps. "You have proven yourself beyond what any dissonance trial could measure. Just inhale," she said quietly. "You have fought at my side, risked your life for mine, and shown wisdom in counsel." "I was just doing what needed to be done," I replied, uncomfortable with the praise. She moved closer, her golden eyes searching mine. "Few would have shown such courage. Fewer still would have adapted so quickly to our ways." In that moment, without the armor of formal attire or the barriers of cultural protocol, I saw her not as Lady Amara Valari, heir to an alien throne, but simply as Amara, intelligent, courageous, and unexpectedly vulnerable. "I've come to admire you," I admitted. "Your strength, your dedication to your people. It's remarkable. And I have come to admire your adaptability, your technical brilliance, and your integrity," she responded. "I fear for tomorrow's dangers, but I do not fear having you at my side." The air between us seemed charged with unspoken feelings. Her luminescence had shifted to a gentle, pulsing pattern that I somehow knew was significant, though I couldn't interpret its meaning. "We should rest," she said finally. "Tomorrow will test us both." As I returned to my quarters, I realized with startling clarity that what had begun as an accidental cultural mishap had transformed into something I never could have anticipated. I was falling in love with Lady Amara Valari. The following day, our trap was set. A diplomatic vessel departed from the Eris Nova with great fanfare, supposedly carrying Lady Amara to safety. In reality, she remained aboard the main ship, coordinating the operation from the command center, while I monitored the technical aspects of our plan. "Transmitting distress signal now," I announced, initiating the bait sequence, making it appear that the diplomatic vessel is experiencing system failures. Lady Amara nodded, her attention fixed on the tactical display. "Now we wait to see if our fish takes the bait." We didn't have to wait long. Within hours, sensors detected movement from the hidden enemy vessels. "They're emerging from hiding," the tactical officer reported, "moving to intercept the diplomatic vessel." "Perfect," Lady Amara said with satisfaction. "Signal the Eris Nova to move into attack position." The operation proceeded exactly as planned. As the enemy ships converged on the decoy, the Eris Nova emerged from its concealed position and launched a devastating attack. Caught by surprise, and with their cloaking systems deactivated to conserve power for pursuit, the enemy vessels were quickly disabled. "Boarding parties report the ships are secured, my lady," Velra announced. "The conspirators have been captured." Lady Amara's expression was one of grim triumph. "Bring them aboard. They will face justice at the convocation. With the immediate threat neutralized, preparations began for the all-house convocation, a gathering of all Volari noble houses aboard the massive space station known as the Pillar of Accord. The event would take place the following day, and despite our victory, tension remained high. That evening, Lady Amara summoned me to her quarters. She was dressed in ceremonial attire, more elaborate than anything I had seen her wear before. Silver stellar dragons were embroidered across the collar, and her luminescent patterns seemed enhanced, glowing with particular intensity. "Tomorrow, you will accompany me to the convocation as my official protector consort," she informed me. "This is the final phase of your dissonance trial, though in truth, you have already proven yourself beyond any doubt." A formal attendant presented me with black, ceremonial robes, marked with subtle silver accents that complemented Lady Amara's attire. "These are the traditional garments of the protector consort," she explained. "They symbolize strength, loyalty, and the sacred duty of protection." As I accepted the robes, our hands briefly touched, sending an unexpected jolt of awareness through me. "Amara," I said, dropping her title for the first time. "What happens after the convocation, after all this is over?" Her luminescence flickered in a pattern I was beginning to recognize as emotional vulnerability. "That depends on many factors. Just inhale, including your own wishes." "And if my wish is to remain at your side?" I asked softly. Her golden eyes met mine. "Then we would need to discuss what that means. For you, for me, for our respective peoples. But first, we must survive tomorrow." The Pillar of Accord lived up to its name, a massive cylindrical structure floating in neutral space, its architecture embodying the principles of balance and harmony. Inside, the Grand Assembly Hall could accommodate hundreds of Volari nobles, all seated according to their house rankings and alliances. Lady Amara and I entered with formal ceremony, her regal bearing drawing all eyes. I walked half a step behind her, as was customary for the protector consort. The atmosphere was charged with tension. Everyone present knew of the recent assassination attempts, and speculation ran rampant about what would unfold. When all were assembled, Lady Amara took her position at the central podium. Her voice, amplified by the chamber's acoustics, carried to every corner. "Noble houses of Volari, I stand before you at a pivotal moment in our history. An assassination plot against me has been uncovered and thwarted, but the conspiracy extends beyond what was initially revealed." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Lady Amara continued, her tone resolute. "The plot was not limited to House Dreneth. 2 co-conspirators sit among us today, believing themselves still hidden in shadow." She gestured for me to step forward with the data disk we had recovered. I connected it to the central projection system, and holographic images materialized above the assembly. Ship identification codes, communication logs, command sequences. "The evidence is irrefutable," I stated, highlighting key sections of data. "The phase shift cloaking frequency, ship identification markers, and internal command logs all point to the same conclusion." The holographic display shifted to reveal the conspirators' communications, their plans for assassination laid bare for all to see. As the damning evidence played out, all eyes turned to 2 nobles seated among the diplomatic guests, representatives of houses that had publicly supported Lady Amara while secretly plotting her demise. The accused attempted to protest, claiming the evidence had been fabricated. But when I played the recorded assassination order in their own voices, their arguments collapsed. "By the ancient laws of Volari," Lady Amara proclaimed, "I charge these conspirators with treason against the royal house and violation of the sacred trust of the convocation." The intervention forces moved swiftly, surrounding the accused. After a brief formal hearing, they were stripped of their noble status and sentenced to exile, just as Zoral Dreneth had been. With justice served, Lady Amara addressed the assembly once more. "House Volari stands firm. Justice has been served not just for me, but for our entire alliance. She then turned to me, her luminescence pulsing with pride. I also formally recognize Justin Hale of Earth, who has stood beside me not as a mere symbolic figure, but as a true partner in this struggle. He has completed the dissonance trial with honor and courage beyond question. The assembly's response was mixed. Some nobles nodded in approval. Others remained skeptical. But none could deny the evidence of my service to their heir. As the formal proceedings concluded, Lady Amara and I returned to the Eris Nova. We stood together by the observation window, watching the stars drift past in infinite silence. "It's over," I said quietly. "The conspiracy, the trial, all of it." Lady Amara's luminescence had softened to a gentle glow, her formal demeanor relaxing now that we were alone. "Yes. No more running. No more judgmental rituals. Just us," I said, "and the vast sky." She turned to me, her golden eyes reflecting the starlight. "The dissonance trial traditionally ends with a choice. Justin Hale. The candidate may choose to formalize the bond that was accidentally initiated, or they may depart with honor, the cultural obligation fulfilled." My heart raced as I considered her words. What had begun as a catastrophic misunderstanding had become the most significant journey of my life. In Lady Amara, I had found someone extraordinary, a leader of unwavering principle, a warrior of remarkable skill, and a woman of profound depth. "What if I choose neither option?" I asked. "What if instead I ask for time for us to discover what lies between us without the pressure of tradition or circumstance?" A smile, the first full, unrestrained smile I had seen from her, transformed her face. "That would be unprecedented, and entirely welcome." She placed her hand in mine, our fingers intertwining. "Perhaps we can forge a new tradition, one that honors both our cultures, while creating something uniquely our own." As the Eris Nova set course for new horizons, I realized that my greatest repair job hadn't been the translation core at all. It had been the bridge between two worlds, built one cultural misunderstanding at a time. In the soft glow of starlight, with Amara's hand in mine, I knew that whatever challenges awaited us in the diplomatic missions to come, we would face them together. The accidental consort and his luminous lady, writing their own story among the stars.